Good morning. Yeah, 3:33 again. Another one of those mornings that I wake up really early, get to the meditation room, and then get to the computer. Today's title sort of goes along with yesterday's a little bit. Honoring Bob Bowman, a local hero. Yesterday evening, I had the privilege of attending a dinner in which we honored one of our local heroes from right here in Melbourne, Florida. I have known Bob Bowman for several years now. Even though he was a military man having flown 101 combat missions in Vietnam and served the Ford and Carter administrations as Director of Advanced Space Programs Development for the United States Air Force, what makes Bob a hero is his integrity and willingness to speak the truth. Today I will share why I think of him as a hero. I'm including a link on this blurb that'll go up on YouTube, and of course it'll be available on Facebook as well, to the Wikipedia information about Bob Bowman, and I have that in front of me on the computer screen where the camera sits. I already gave you some of the information about him. He's a man that could also be called a paradox man, a military man, a person who was an insider in high places. He's also the founding Archbishop of the United Catholic Church, and the director of Christian Support Ministries. So he's a very spiritual man in addition to being a military man. And you combine his love for God with his with all of his knowledge, and you get someone that has the potential anyway of being a person of integrity, which he certainly is. I remember hearing him speak several times actually at peace rallies, and he was also very active in the 9/11 Truth movement. In fact, he's been on a national tour across this country, and he's been on the Alex Jones show in 2009. That was the last year he toured. He's been fighting cancer for 8 years, and he walks with a walker, although he was able to stand up and share a little bit with us last evening. We told him he could sit down, but he insisted in standing at his table and delivered, I don't know, a 10 or 15-minute message. It wasn't that long. Actually, it was a humorous story that he told. In any case, he ran for congressman here in 2006, and I was actively involved in his campaign, having met the man, having talked to him personally on a number of occasions. I went around gathering signatures to get his name on the ballot, and he won the Democratic Party primary in 2006 and running against the Republican incumbent. This is a very highly Republican county. Exit polls showed him winning by 14%, or showed him with a 14% lead. But of course, the mainstream touch screens, when those votes came in and everything else, it totally turned it around, and he ended up losing by the same percentage as 5 other Congress people that were running for office that the establishment didn't want in, by the exact same margin of votes. 6 people had identical margins of loss or victory, depending on which side you're on. And he realized that there was voter fraud going on even back in 2006. Of course, we knew that from 2000 with the Bush election and 2004 with the Bush election, which he didn't win either of those. Anyway, he has been a strong opponent of the Strategic Defense Initiative, also known as Star Wars, He's authored 2 books on the SDI program, and he also was a critic of the Bush administration's national missile defense. He's part of Veterans for Peace and Vietnam Veterans Against the War. And as I said, I heard him speak at peace rallies more than once right here locally in Melbourne, Florida. And he actually stood with us on some occasions, passing out DVDs and literature about 9/11 truth. So he has been an activist here in the local community, unafraid to speak the truth to whoever will listen. And he's been an insider, he's a whistleblower, and this is why I'm greatly honored to have participated in this dinner honoring him. For someone that's been fighting cancer for 8 years, I must say he still looks good, even though he's certainly considerably more feeble than he was when I saw him the last time, which was at least a couple or 3 years ago. I got to meet and hear his wife and 2 of his children, 1 daughter and 1 son. The son appreciates most about his dad the spiritual foundation that he laid, and the daughter is the rebel in the family. She's the one that's the odd person out, she said. That's her saying. But they both were there to honor their dad, although some of the other of his children were not there last night. But I got to meet others of his friends, and it was interesting. I stood up and I shared something that I got highly criticized for from the man that was sitting right across the table from me. How dare I say that the New World Order is dead, based on something that was said by Jimmy Carter's National Security Advisor, Zbigniew Brzezinski, which I've mentioned in a recent video in the last couple of weeks, who said that the awakening is happening much faster than they anticipated, and some of their plans for global governments are not going to be able to be implemented. And of course, this person across the seat from me is, I believe, a fundamentalist Christian, so he doesn't see the bigger picture. He's locked into what the Bible says, and it's going to get worse and worse, and he doesn't see the Spirit of God moving to actually improve things, which is what I see and what I hope most of you that are listening are able to see. But it's people like Bob Bowman that, based on where he came from, you wouldn't necessarily think of him as being a hero. I mean, I no longer think of people in the military as heroes because of their military prowess, or whatever you want to call it. I consider the heroes the people that stand up and just say no to the war effort and recognize, as what was it, Smedley Butler or whatever, the guy that I mentioned yesterday. Let's see, I can scroll down here. Let me just look at this. Yeah, Smedley Butler, I was right. He was a general, but he spoke the truth. He says war is a racket. And Bob Bowman basically comes across the same way. That's why he's part of the Patriots for Peace and the Vietnam Veterans Against the War. He's been very active, and there are these people that recognize that the war effort or the military effort is not what we're told. In fact, in a radio interview on April the 12th and 27, I'm going to read this quote. It's in Wikipedia, so that you can go and look at it yourself if you go to that link. But technological feasibility, this is Bob Bowman speaking on the radio interview. Technological feasibility of a defense shield is entirely irrelevant because Star Wars has nothing to do with defense. It is an attempt to deploy offensive weapons disguised as defense. In 1982, in his secret defense guidance document, Ronald Reagan ordered the Department of Defense to develop Star Wars weapons, and he assigned them two missions. One, destroy opposing satellites and seize control of space. Two, destroy targets on the surface of the Earth from space without warning. There wasn't a word in there about shooting down ballistic missiles. That was a smokescreen for the American people, because they knew the American people would never approve weapons in space for offensive purposes. End quote. This is the kind of stuff that that Bob Bowman has stood for, and he's carried this torch, and his wife was pleading with someone, preferably an insider, to come in and take over some of the things that he's been so actively involved in. And he said it's so important for him to remain a public figure, that's the safety net, because they're not going to take down the public figures, but they will take down somebody that's fighting in secrecy. Secrecy is not a protective thing. Secrecy makes you more vulnerable. Those of us that have been on the spiritual path for a long time realize that. Trying to keep to ourselves and just be private and hiding our light under a bushel, so to speak, is not a protective measure at all. In fact, we're called on to be light shining in the world. And Bob Bowman, who could be called Dr. Bob Bowman, because he is, where did I see it? Anyway, I don't see that, but he's where I know I read it. He's a doctor. He's a nuclear physicist. I mean, he has a PhD in nuclear something. Where did I see that? I know I read it, and yet I'm not finding it here. Maybe I saw it on something else, although I didn't think I looked at anything else. He, from the California Institute of Technology, is where he got his degrees in nuclear. I'm surprised it's not jumping off the page at me. I'm so surprised. I did read another article last night because I have another friend who also flew a bunch of combat missions in Vietnam. And like Bob Bowman, he's also battling a debilitating disease. And he wanted to know a little bit about Bob Bowman. The two don't know each other, even though they live very close to each other. They're not aware. My friend Hank was not aware of Bob Bowman at all, but he's not been involved in the 9/11 truth movement and the peace movement, such as like I have. Anyway, I wanted to share this with you this morning and point out how important it is that we all speak out and speak our truth and tell what we know. Don't claim what you don't know. I mean, that's crazy. But speak what you do know. And don't be afraid of the repercussions, and there are repercussions. When you speak some unpopular truth, something that other people don't want to hear, as Bob does, as I do, as David Icke and others have done, when you speak that kind of truth, you're going to get criticism from the people that want to maintain the status quo, whether it's a religious status quo, a political status quo, an economic status quo, whatever. You're going to get criticism from them. But if you're courageous and hold to your course, you're helping to change the world, and you will ultimately come out on top. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to share for today. I thank you for listening to this little bit of story and history about one of my friends, not an intimate friend, but someone that I have known for a number of years now, at least since 2004 or 5 probably. I'm not sure exactly what year I met him. I know it was before he ran for office in 2006, because I was very active already in his campaign at that time. And I still, by the way, I still have a bumper sticker on my car for Bob Bowman and also for Ron Paul. So I have one from each party, Democrat and Republican. Anyway, as I said, thank you for listening. Namaste.